How do I do it all? The Brezza gives me the power.
See, now it feels like the IPL. It was on a Saturday or, in today's case, a Sunday afternoon. You set aside the rest of your weekend and you look forward to the first double header of IPL 2025. This is Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket for Timeout. KKR, defending champions, didn't enjoy themselves last night. RCB on a high. How about the Sunrisers now? The team everybody wants to keep an eye on because of how they lit up IPL 2024. Up against them, the Rajasthan Royals. And we build up to that game. Piyush Chawla has gone nowhere from yesterday. He spent the night here. But we've changed his company. Matthew Hayden has taken the short flight from Calcutta.
I thought you were saying, folks, these cups, they're all full of coffee. That's the IPL. Right? We've hit the ground running.
For you.
Now we're just going boom, boom, boom.
Are you telling me that the strongest beverage you've had in the IPL is coffee?
At this stage. Keep that secret though, okay?
And might I welcome my good friend and colleague Matt Roller. Matt, all the way from the UK right now. Better returns than Harry Brook in the IPL, I must say. Where you promised to join us and you honour your promise.
I delivered, yeah. I knew there would be a 2-year ban waiting for me if I pulled out this time, so.
Hados enjoyed that little Harry Brook.
Always. Any time that you can sledge a palm, it's a great thing.
It seems like a mismatch though. If I actually had seasoned England international, someone you played against, that's one thing.
I'm not fancying your chances, Matt. He looks like a swizzle stick. And he's done.
And I believe the two of you are acquainted as well, Piyush Chawla.
Yes, recently, few days back, I got a message from Matt regarding the 100th and all. And then I told him, once you'll meet me, I'll tell you face to face what exactly is happening.
Oh, so are you like scouting for teams now? Are you a talent scout?
Well, Piyush was considering it. He was working out whether or not he would be available. He's obviously joining us on the sofa rather than in the IPL so far this season, but who knows? You don't want to retire because there could be a nice cushy replacement gig out there somewhere.
Yeah, Piyush is not retiring.
Yeah. Exactly.
In fact, we're going to log all of Piyush's days in the first half of the IPL. Who knows what happens in the second half?
I'm here, then next day I'm somewhere there.
We'll be talking about you here, dissecting you like you dissected Suyash Sharma last time. Right, focus on Sunrisers and the Rajasthan Royals. Toss has just taken place in Hyderabad and the Royals have chosen to field. Now we thought yesterday actually Piyush was a good toss to win for RCB, but afternoon game, does it really matter?
Well, I don't think so. It will matter a lot, especially in Hyderabad, because the wicket stays the same. It plays in the same way. So it's just that you want to just go out there, express yourself. And first game, you want to calm your nerves down. So I think it's good toss to win.
Okay, what we're going to do is, while we wait for first teams for both Sunrisers and Rajasthan Royals, and we'll get an idea of how they shape up in this new season, we're going to spend some time on just what makes left-hand batters so good in T20 cricket. We've got one of the best, still Matthew Hayden, and we've got a team like Sunrisers Hyderabad that go up with two left-hand batters. Who knows, they have a top three of lefties with Ishan Kishan joining them. Yashasvi Jaiswal is with the Royals. We somehow felt like it's worth trying to understand more deeply why are left-hand batters as effective or that much more effective than right-handers. Hados, set it up.
I think it's probably an angle thing more than anything. When you look at these two left-handers today, anything in their hitting arc that's wide of them generally disappears. So if you've got right arm going across, or even just the conventional efforts against the turning ball, left-handers, both of these players are relatively orthodox when it comes to playing spin. But they generate power out of pretty much nothing. And they also can play in different roles, different styles. These two are a little bit more similar than, say, myself and Gilly.
Right.
He was very sort of square of the wicket, and then he could play that big hoik. Well, he could play any shot, let's be honest. There was no one like Gilly. Whereas I was more orthodox, probably featured a bit more heavily through the middle stage against these guys. So he had very distinctive roles to play. These two just are monsters in that power play. Both of them last year, they just owned that entire slot and sides, and actually the whole world just went, these are new benchmarks.
Is it, when you said angles, is it fair to say that the ball angling away from the left-hander is actually easier for the left-hander to counter, as is the ball coming into the left-hander, than if I flip it up and have a left-arm bowler, which we often talk about, Trent Bolt to Rohit Sharma and Mitchell Stark to right-hand batter, that swinging ball. Why is it so much harder for the righty to the lefty? Anything to do with why the lefties find the angles easier to navigate?
Left-handers, they're an unpredictable bunch. So to try and control the kind of areas that they need seems a lot more difficult for some reason. I'm not sure. Very rarely do you see, like take Spencer Johnson last night. He was just an absolute rabbit in a headlight. And this is to Virat Kohli, that is not really the guy where you think, oh, he's going to feature heavily in the power play. He's just not really that, especially in a small run chase. But he just got owned.
Yeah.
And I think it's just that kind of inconsistent nature of left armers, and their role is to be unpredictable as well. That's what actually gets them wickets.
They also seem to be better matchups for what we think are countering spin matchups. It's not like the off spinners keep left-handers as quiet as, say, the left-arm spinners tend to keep right-handers.
Well, if you see most of the team, there are very few teams who features a good off-spinner in their squad. So you don't practice that much against them. And every team you'll see, either you'll have a one wrist spinner or maybe one or two left-arm spinners, so you practice more against them. And you become quite used to it. And as Haydos said about the angles, and you're talking about the right-hander bringing into the left-hander, it's not natural. Left armer bringing in the ball to a right hand batter, it's natural, but right arm medium pacer bringing the ball into a left hander is not natural. So it's about how much you practice against these bowler, how much you have done that in the nets, so that becomes really difficult then.
I think practice is quite a key thing there, because if you think, this is a point borrowed from Nathan Lehman, who's now the analyst at KKR, used to work with England, but I think in the population worldwide, it's only about 10 to 12% of people who are left-handed. In top level cricket, if you look at the openers across this season, there's loads of left-handed openers. We saw two last night in Narayan and de Kock.
Yep.
We've got probably three in this afternoon's game. Could potentially see Conway or Ravindra tonight. Rickleton potentially for MI as well. I think a lot of that is because at lower levels, I don't know if this is your experience, Haydos, but at lower levels, you're so unusual as a left-hander, you're an outlier. So you sort of get used to being fed. If you think of the right arm seamer's best ball on fourth stump line, good length, that's tucked for four off your hip, isn't it?
Yeah, well, one other big factor is that, can you remember the last time the white ball actually swung? it was like 2 decades ago. One just got faded in a little bit. But they don't swing anymore.
And even the spin, there's hardly any spin.
Last night I think it was 1.2 degrees.
Yeah.
I mean, the leg spinner had it wrong, and that spun a bit more than that.
Because of his action, because if you see he's very close to his ear, Suyash, that's why his leggy doesn't turn, his wrong one turns more. So pretty much like me.
Why don't you answer Matt's point? When you grew up playing, especially in India, do you play a lot of age cricket bowling predominantly to right-handers?
Yeah, that actually happens. Earlier it used to happen. Nowadays selectors have started making a point, even in junior cricket they want left hand, right hand combination. But earlier it wasn't like that. It was like they'll just see the batter, if he'll look good in the nets and if he'll go and score some runs in the district cricket or the school cricket, he'll be picked. So at that time also left-handers used to be very few, and the myth in India, if you're a left-hander, so parents used to say, become a right-hander.
That's true. It's inauspicious. It's considered inauspicious.
Exactly.
So they try and sort of
change
you out of that.
There wasn't such a thing as a left-handed set of golf clubs when I was young.
Yeah.
You had to become a right-hander.
What I also found unique is, now you throw and right-handed, don't you?
Yes.
Everything right-handed.
Right.
Yep.
And
Except
there
golf.
are
I was the one kid that did have a set of golf clubs.
So I'm just trying to think of whether it's advisable for a young player to actually just take up batting left-handed. I think Saurav Ganguly was the first example of someone in a freak set of scenarios having to share his brother's pads. Being a right-hander, had to just bat left-handed. But is it easy enough for someone who's not right-handed with handwriting or with throwing to just bat lefty?
I think it's quite tricky. I mean, the concept of being ambidextrous was introduced maybe through John Buchanan's era, where he was like, guys, we've got to start batting both sides. And, that's a lot harder than the theory of it, especially if you get to this level. You're seeing now, through this generation, guys that are like Maxwell, for example, who's pretty good both sides. I'm led to believe he was playing a great game and he hopped over to the dark side, our side, and did all right. So there's a good example of someone that probably has the potential to do it.
Sure.
I think it's also got a lot to do with your eyes. Being left and right eye dominant, not equally good in both eyes typically.
I never knew that. Did you know that? Well, no point asking you. I never knew that. Is that true?
It's a simple test, yeah. Simple test, maybe for another day, but
More intelligent than I am.
you should find it out. It actually helped my career a lot, just knowing the fact that I was a right-eyed dominant player. You know, so this eye was tracking the majority of what I had to do, whereas Gilly was much more dominant on the left eye. So
You do get some interesting stories as well. I think this is Mike Hussey used to watch Alan Border batting on TV, and because he was trying to do what he did, he would bat left-handed because he was the mirror image. And I think it was a similar story for Trescothick. And I guess as a right-hander, if you're a sort of top-hand player, it's then your strong hand that's on the top of the bat. I don't know whether that was a similar experience for either of you, but
Yes, so if you're a left-hander, you're obviously top hand is dominating.
Right.
Like if you want to play orthodox cricket like Haydos did, so it becomes naturally thin.
I just remember when we weren't allowed to hit the ball too far playing in corridors where things could break, we were all forced to bat left-handers, weaker side. And on that trivial and useless note, that's a fascinating conversation about why left-handers are dominant. It can go to all sorts of factors well beyond what we see at the highest level. And Haydos and Piyush and Matt were just trying to break it down from the early days. Right, let's focus on teams, shall we? Sunrisers. What have you got for us? You're the team that we're all expecting to get 300. It may not happen today, but they're well positioned to get some record scores. Ishan Kishan, we expect, will bat at 3. They've been put into bat. Remember, Head, Abhishek, Reddy, Klassen, all part of that retain. Watch out for Aniket Verma, who is highly rated. There's not a lot that you might see in terms of stats on his Cricinfo profile, but from MP and smashed 100 in the intra-squad game in the build-up to this. Abhinav Manohar is there as well. Pat Cummins, Simarjeet Singh, Harshal Patel, Mohammad Shami. That is the first Sunrisers 11. 1, 2, 3 overseas. So Adam Zampa might very well play today. Piyush Chawla?
Yeah, Adam Zampa will definitely come into that, because looking at the playing 11, you just have 3 overseas, but look at that batting order. You have Travis Head, Abhishek Sharma, Ishan Kishan, Nitish Kumar Reddy. They all are explosive batters, so you can expect them to go hard right from the first ball. That's what they have done last year as well. And as Haydos mentioned, they have set that benchmark to getting those 85, 90 runs in the first 6.
Are they a stronger batting team than last season, Haydos?
Ishan Kishan's an interesting one because he had a pretty average season last year, so we can't definitely go on that as his numbers just didn't show how the class of him. I would say probably yes. I mean, Klassen is a unique character as well because he hasn't scored a run outside of the IPL. He was magnificent last year. He's a real benchmark player, and in fact, I think a lot of clubs and teams, they'll be looking at that type of player and going, that's our Huckleberry right there. So can he replicate that form of last year? That is a huge option for them.
It's one thing to say that they were so good last year, but to back up that expectation, reputation, teams are going to come better prepared against SRH.
yeah, absolutely. I think the other guy that we've not mentioned yet is Abhinav Manohar, who I apparently has had a brilliant time of it in domestic cricket. I think I saw he hit 52 sixes in the season in the Karnataka T20 League. So if he can replicate that, I know he doesn't have a great record in IPL to date, but could be a guy to keep an eye on for this season. Yeah,
let's just break down what they've been up to, the Sunrisers batters, since the last IPL, and if it counts for anything, form in between 2 IPLs. Phil Salt and Sunil Narayan showed us last night. It doesn't really. But for what it's worth, since the start of last year's IPL, looking at Travis Head, Abhishek, Klassen and Reddy all striking at over 150. Ishan Kishan's not been bad as well, and strongish enough averages. That's just what they've been up to in the last 12 months or so. You've been watching the Karnataka League.
I've been reading about the Karnataka League.
Right, very good.
It's pretty good though. I mean, the reality, Head is their marquee player, and he's been great across all formats of the game, dangerous throughout any stage or phase of the innings, plays that fearless approach type of cricket, so he's absolute key.
What would you want to see from a bowling point of view to keep this batting lineup quiet? I think that's what the Rajasthan Royals are thinking now. These guys are going to come hard at us, so what do we need to do?
Well, I think it's very important try to swing the ball. As Haydos mentioned, there's hardly any swing left with the white ball, but still, first 1 or 2 overs, whatever help you'll get, you just try to do that because you want to get them out. because if they continue for 4-5 overs, it means you are looking at a scorecard that will be showing you 60 for 1 in 5 overs. So that's the way they bat. So it's very important when the batter has come to the crease, they are new, just try to get them out as quickly as possible, and for that you have to look up to Jofra Archer because he's the most experienced campaigner in that particular bowling lineup.
Let's find out if Archer's playing. Let's look at the Rajasthan team, shall we? And we know that Sanju Samson isn't going to lead or feature in the field. Therefore, Riyan Parag is going to be captain, and that'll also mean he'll be captain in his home ground in the next game when they play at Guwahati against KKR. But that's the team that they've gone. Now, Shubham Dubey is listed at the top of the order, which is quite interesting. But that'll change once Sanju Samson comes in. He's on the impact bench. 4 overseas, Archer's in there, Theekshana and not Hasaranga, Fazalak Farooqi, Shimron Hetmyer. Rest of the team is pretty much on expected lines. Piyush?
Yeah, for me a surprise here is Hasaranga because he's somebody when he played IPL last time around, he was quite successful and he has been picking up wickets. But yeah, that's what the team management thought process was, that they needed an extra pacer, and that's why they have gone with Fazalak Farooqi.
Yeah. Matt, you want to spin a story for us today?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it's notable that both of these teams have picked an overseas spinner because that used to be something that was pretty rare in IPL. And I think if we look at the top wicket takers from the last couple of IPL seasons, we can see that there are a couple of overseas guys in there, in Rashid Khan and Noor Ahmed. But I think it is interesting generally to sort of compare the Indian spin depth compared to a few years ago and work out whether that's one of the reasons potentially that more teams are relying on overseas spinners. We did see quite a few picked at the auction.
Yep.
There were a few, Mumbai later, they have Santner and Mujib in their squad. Chennai similarly have Noor Ahmed, obviously. But I'm interested, looking at this table here, we obviously see the man to my left in there is one of the leading wrist spinners of the last couple of seasons. But I'm interested to hear Piyush's thoughts in particular on sort of Indian wrist spin and leg spin depth, and whether or not it's there in the same way it was a few years ago. Because I think, I always thought looking on from afar from IPL, one of the common questions that English people always have about IPL in terms of auction dynamics is where's Adil Rashid? Why is Adil Rashid not getting picked? And I think one of the main reasons for that used to be there were so many great Indian leg spinners. Why would you waste an overseas spot on a leg spinner like Rashid?
Is that changing?
Whereas now maybe we are seeing, there is quite a long list of overseas spinners involved in the IPL this year. Yes. And I wonder if it's...
Well, I agree with him because when we were discussing about the Rajasthan team, I was a bit surprised not to see the Indian spinner in there because you want at least one Indian spinner in your squad, and that was not missing there. And looking at the other teams, all team have like good 1 or 2 Indian spinners. But now the spinners who are coming across from the world, they're doing well. Like we have just given the example of Zampa, then Noor Ahmed. And Noor Ahmed and Rashid Khan more like Indian only because they play here, they practice here. The Indian is the home ground as well. Like sometime it was UP in Noida. But overall, looking at the current scenario, there are a lot of teams who are dependent on the spinners, and they make sure they have good wrist spinner, and they're doing well at the international level.
These are the overseas spinners we have this year, Piyush. Whether it's, I think that there's a slightly greater leaning towards overseas spinners this year than last year. Mujib came in as replacement for Allah Ghasanfar for MI. Delhi, Lucknow, Bangalore and Punjab are 4 teams that do not have the overseas spinners. Just thinking that Delhi of course have Kuldeep, Aksar, Lucknow have Bishnoi, Punjab have Yuzvendra Chahal. Bangalore we were questioning their spin resources yesterday. But yeah, that's the frontline overseas spin options we have. Yeah.
But if you see, there are few only like Noor Ahmed, Rashid Khan, and people are showing trust in them. Mitchell Santner, who has been in a brilliant form in last almost 1.5 year. Mujib, I don't think so he'll feature, he's just there as a backup. So few quality spinners from around the world, so only those are featuring in here, not like from every country there is a spinner. So that much you expect.
I was looking at that original graphic and thinking, because we talk about wickets, and Krunal Pandya was a great example of that last night. His 3 for was a game changer, 1 for 107, came on in I think the 11th over, and bang, he's in the wickets. But to that first graphic, I don't think there was a person that was over 9s. In a competition now where benchmark...
You're right, just Markanday at the bottom.
Just Markanday at the bottom, but the rest, when you look at that, they're equally as economical as what they are wicket-taking options as well, and which it's chicken and the egg as to which one comes first. But when you think of this tournament and the benchmarks that we are expressing here now being in that 10 runs per over category, you've got a clear advantage with your wrist spinner there sitting on that 8s. 2 runs and over is a lot to consider. And then once you actually are economical, then you're also amongst the wickets. So it's a double-edged sword for the spinners.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at those numbers, that tells you what we're to expect. I think the other thing is about Adam Zampa himself and why such a prolific international bowler, game changer for Australia, hasn't quite enjoyed the same appetite in IPL franchises. Sometimes he pulls out on his own, which we've understood during the COVID period.
Hasn't played a lot. There's not a big sample, is there? I wouldn't have thought.
Is there any sort of reservation that Zampa may not be as effective in the IPL as he is in the international level? That's similar line of conversation or thinking for Adil Rashid.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear.
Yeah, so
you think he'll be good?
Adam Zampa will be good because of his pace. But coming back to the point of Adil Rashid, he played few IPL games, but he was not effective because he was bowling too slow in the air. And in IPL, where the wickets are good, batters, you get Indian cream batters who are really good against the spin, and you can't really toss it up to them because they are ready for it. So Adam Zampa has slight edge ahead of Adil Rashid because he's quicker in the air, and most of the time he's hitting the stumps. And if you're hitting the stumps most of the time, so it's like you miss, I hit. And in that case, that's why Adam Zampa is a much better option.
You think back to that 23 World Cup here as well, I was just going to say, and that was his strength, wasn't it? He had a great tournament, and it was all from hitting the top of the stumps time and again. Obviously, slightly different format, 50 over cricket versus T20, but
coaches also, apart from skill, have got to laden their teams with sides that are hungry. My challenge with an Adam Zampa or question mark is he hungry to play IPL cricket, to play franchise cricket when he's such a prominent player for Australia. I mean, he has pulled out on regular occasions for different reasons, which for me sort of questions what this competition means to him in essence.
Do you sense this is the franchise for him? If he needs a little more love and some familiar faces with the significant Aussie component there with Dan Vittori as the assistant coach, so this might be. If he was anywhere else, I wonder if we think, how'll he go? But here?
I think we'll see it instantly. Like, I think he's that kind of player. Like, it's with spin, I know as a batsman, you're looking at revolutions on the ball. You're looking at energy through the crease. You're looking at those things that make a ball that's presenting itself with a certain characteristic a little more unhittable. That's the X factor. Sure. Most of the time when it comes out of a spin bowler's hand, you're thinking 6 and 4. Sorry, buddy.
That's okay.
But if you've got energy on the ball, like Bushy did, and that revolutions on the ball, suddenly you might get a ball arriving at you that's dipped a little bit. That's just moved a fraction more off the wicket.
You want to tell us the story of when this man thought?
This man thought, like when I was playing for Punjab, he played one shot and he thought he missed, and he was like, oh, and it went 10 rows back. I said his oh went 10 rows back. If he would have said, oh wow, it would have gone out of the stadium then.
What were you trying to do there? Was that just? Did you actually not hit it well?
Were you just
pulling
he just
Piyush's leg?
mistimed it. He felt that.
I just didn't pay spinners any respect. I'm really sorry, mate.
That's perfectly fine.
All I thought was boundaries. That's it.
Yeah. But that's an advantage for the spinner, though, if a batsman is thinking for a boundary all the time. Because a good ball, if a batter is thinking to hit a 6, you always end up getting wicket. You get disturbed as a spinner when you bowl a good ball and batsman is not doing anything, is just knocking it around for single and double and one odd big boundary in between. So that over which looks good till the 4th ball, automatically it turns out to be a 14 runs over, which you thought you'll end up giving 7-8 runs.
All right. Well, how do Rajasthan actually plan with the resources that they have for this strong Sunrisers batting, especially given this was the team in the last auction cycle we thought had one of the best bowling lineups. They had 5 or at least 4 outright international bowlers. They had specialists in Ashwin and Chahal and Trent Bolt. But now we just look at the team one more time, Rajasthan team, and think about Head, Abhishek on the one hand, Heinrich Klaasen and whatnot. And Rajasthan's bowling, Fazal Farooqi, who has played for the Sunrisers until last season, Tushar Deshpande, new franchise, Sandeep Sharma, Jofra Archer and Theekshana.
Well, to be honest, not looking very strong.
Like,
I have to be honest. That's why you looked at me. Because Fazal Farooqi, I know he has done decent job for Afghanistan, but IPL is a totally different ball game altogether. And Jofra Archer is not in best of his form. Tushar Deshpande, he has picked up wickets, but he has been highly economical. Like we have seen the economic.
Yeah, he goes for runs.
He leaks a lot of runs. So Tikshana is there, but I don't know how much he'll be effective on that Hyderabad wicket, where we were looking at those practice matches, this runs were getting scored. They'll be playing on the same surface now.
The ball off bat sounds like a cannon going off there.
Yes.
I mean, it's just next level, good track to bat on. That to me looks like a better slow wicket type bowling attack.
Okay. Yep.
I mean, Archer obviously is going to generate, movement through the air and he's got a genuine rhythm to him. But Sandeep Sharma is going to be the key today, especially to someone like Travis Head. Off-pace deliveries into the wicket, higher bounces, borderline sort of wide stuff is going to really make a big difference.
Tennis ball sort of bowling.
Yeah, and he's great at the death as well. He's a really good competitor. Had a great season last year, so I'm looking, heavily towards him to stop that run feast up the top.
What about Archer? I'm just trying to think. Archer was blunt in the Champions Trophy, and we're trying to think of whether we'll see the Archer who was MVP in 2020 edition, and all the other questions around Archer and his fitness and longevity.
And there was a big tug of war with the ECB to even be here, because he, if you remember, he wasn't even on the original long list for the auction. He was a late addition to that because there were.
Not the first time that's happened.
Oh, true, but there was a lot of back and forth between him and the ECB. Obviously, the new rules coming in about if you don't enter the big auction, you can't go into the mini. And it ended up being that he actually took a pay cut from his central contract in order to play IPL. So it's clearly a big tournament for him. There's always been these big picture hopes in English cricket that he's going to make a comeback to Test cricket. And I think obviously with big series India and the Ashes this year, there's still that hope. But first of all, he needs to get through 14 IPL games as a minimum and look like he's more potent than he did in the Champions Trophy, really, because he hasn't been at his best. I think particularly coming back for second spells against Australia, he started quite well in that game in the group stages there, but then got absolutely hammered at the end by Josh Inglis. So
big change of action too. When we were picking apart, he has, yeah.
Break that down. It's boring for you, isn't it? You just want
It's a little dull,
yeah,
and probably
Don't break
not
it
my
down.
expertise. But generally speaking, at the point of delivery, he's looking like his wrist position's coming that side of the ball. So everything is basically going across someone like Travis Head, which may actually be an advantage to him. But he used to get the ball sort of presented nice and straight, and it used to be able to go both ways. And he dropped his pace a little bit as well. So, with impact players that drop their pace, and that's what we saw in the Champions Trophy, they can be journeymen when they come back. They need that energy and that rhythm. Spencer Johnson was a really good example of that last night. He canned in and bowled 140 when he's capable of bowling 150. And they get hurt without that velocity. Velocity matters in this competition.
What matters for the Sunrisers is how they start. Rajasthan know that, therefore makes for a really interesting line of attack in the power play, and we'll break that down in our Maruti Suzuki Arena Presents Power Play Conversations. Okay, let's get the panel to break it down. Hedas has already said Sandeep Sharma could be an option. We could extend on that point. There's Tikshana, who has bowled power play for CSK in the past. What do you see as the key power play plan?
Well, Sandeep Sharma is a good option because he bowls really well against the left-handers. We have seen that many times he bowling well against the peak form Chris Gayle. So now he could be the good option here, taking ball away from both the left-handers and mixing that pace up.
Hedas, power play, Sandeep and who? Archer surely with the new ball?
Well, Archer surely. I mean, can he generate that pace that I was talking about? Is he hungry? We mentioned that about Adam Zampa as well. All these little battles that happen away from the sporting field can really mess with you. You have to be spot on when it comes to this tournament. You have to arrive here ready to go. And if you're not, you're going to be in a class which is going to be, much better than where you're at. So big start for him. But Sandeep Sharma, I just sense that he's off-pace deliveries, taking out of the strike zone, good accuracy in corridors to both the opening batsmen, I think could be just what they needed.
I reckon Faruqi, given he's in the side, I reckon you've got to go him with the new ball, possibly with Archer, and then maybe you close out the power play with Sandeep. I think, but Tikshana is an option as well. I mean, Head and Abhishek maybe not face quite as much of him as they might some overseas spinners, so could be an option there. But the key thing is line, I think, to Travis Head, because he's so good at he can hit that ball that's aimed at his hip. He can not only smack it for 4 through square leg or pick it up for 6, but he can also he opens up his hips so much and then carves them away through point or through the offside. So that's why he's so difficult, I think, to bowl to in the early phases.
All right. Well, Fazlul Farooqi is swinging the new ball. We just had a look at that. Matthew Hayden wanted to know how much it swings.
It swung. Can you believe it?
That might be the last ball it swings.
And actually handsomely as well. When you look at this, it gathered shape about 3/4 of the way down. Wasn't a lot of pace on it, but
It also doesn't seem as hot and bright just from early pictures that we're getting. So
Well, the first ball which he bowled was like a gentle loosener, but it landed at the right place in the block hole. If it was 1 or 2 feet away from him, he would have gone for it the first ball itself.
all right. Well, we haven't even spoken of Abhishek Sharma, but I think we'll have enough occasions to speak of Abhishek Sharma. Let's get quick predictions from the panel before we wrap things up. First innings score, Matt Roller.
I think it'll be a big one, 210.
Piyush.
I'm looking at somewhere around 195.
Okay, that's below par for Sunrise.
No, 195. First game giving that edge to Rajasthan as well.
All right.
see, I've got a great opportunity here to sit right on the fence.
Stop
just
it,
say
Edos.
200.
Come on, Edos. Be better than
200.
that. Oh, man. All right. Between 195 and 210. Nothing outlandish. No 230s and 240s. But it's early days in the IPL. Thank you very much, Matthew Hayden, Piyush Chawla, Matt Roller. We will continue the conversation at the end of the Sunrisers innings. So join us then on Maruti Suzuki Arena Presents ESPN Cricket for Timeout.
How do I do it all? The Brezza gives me the power.